When I was younger, I was an avid windsurfer, engineering trips to windy coastal destinations whenever possible. On one such trip, I joined a group of people to windsurf from Cape Cod to Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts. As we took off, it was clear that the weather would be challenging. The October sky was gray, the wind was cold and blustering, and the waters were choppy. After a complicated and arduous journey across much of the Vineyard Sound, I could finally see the shoreline just a few hundred yards away. But things changed quickly. My line had somehow separated from the mast, and my sail collapsed, leaving me with nothing to power my board. By that point, the wind had become more erratic, and the chop had reached 3 to 4 feet, and I was unable to re-rig my sail in the water. In the distance, to the east, I began to hear the faint sound of a bell ringing. I didn't pay much attention at first, but the sound became louder, and within a short time, I had drifted to the buoy that housed the bell. The strength of the current became more apparent to me, as it quickly swept me past the bell buoy, the ringing becoming increasingly faint, and now to the west of me. I realized that I was on my way to Nantucket Sound, beyond where anyone would see me. Thankfully, I was eventually spotted by a ferry and rescued by the Coast Guard. Before I had the fixed reference point of the bell buoy, I had no idea how quickly the current was pulling me, or how far I had drifted, or how alarmed I should have been. I was not able to get my bearings, or a sense of movement in the large body of open water. It took that immovable standard to show me how far I had drifted from solid ground. This story has served as a metaphor for the moral drift I have seen at many points throughout my life, in banking, business, government, and nonprofit. Few people go from being anchored to the right thing to doing the wrong thing in one fell swoop. It happens gradually, like erosion. It is often imperceptible. The crowd migrates, and we move with it, until we find ourselves at a place far from where we began, often far from what we once believed to be acceptable. As the CFO of a publicly traded company, I had a front-row seat to the crisis of confidence in corporate ethics that led to the passage of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, a law that significantly increased accounting and oversight requirements for U.S. companies. Over the several years prior, the gradual relaxing of standards among accounting firms, corporate leaders, bankers, and equity analysts, fueled by a strong stock market, had led to a lack of integrity in the financial reports on which investors based their decisions. We saw the collapse of companies like WorldCom and Enron, the disintegration of Arthur Andersen, a storied accounting firm, and the resulting realization that the financial statements of many U.S. companies were not trustworthy. Investigations ensued, corporate leaders went to jail, employees lost their retirement savings, and trust in our institutions was deeply shaken.